Alright, so today we're going to take a look at the compression system in an engine. So that's your main workhorse part of your motor. Without it, you don't have any power. So the function of the compression system is to increase the potential energy. And that does that by compressing the air-fuel mixture and then the combustion of it, releasing it into kinetic energy. So parts in this system, they got to create a leak-proof chamber. So in order to function properly. So leak-proof. You can't compress something if the system has a leak in it. It won't work. Alright, so compressing the air and fuel mixture is done by the piston. So the grooves between the piston rings are called lands. Alright, so that's these things right here. The little grooves around, there's 3 of them. There's 1, 2, and 3. The top of the piston is called the head, or dome, and the bottom is called the skirt. So there are 3 rings. The top ring is called the compression ring. That's the one that's right here, which seals the chamber to prevent the loss of compression. Okay. Middle ring is the scraper ring. So that's what's drawing and helping drop oil up and through the cylinder there, which is very important. Okay. All the rest of the rings that a piston will have are going to be oil rings. So they're also helping to control the amount of oil on the cylinder walls. So, and bringing it back to the engine block after the excess is used there. Alright, so here's one of the differences between the 4-stroke and the 2-stroke motor, the 4-cycle. A 4-cycle motor, if you tip it on its side, will typically stop running. That's set up as a safety mechanism so that, and the reason for it is because if it's on its side, it's not going to bring oil up into the cylinder from the piston very well, and so that's going to compromise your lubrication system and cause failure in your motor. 2-cycle engines have oil in the fuel and are set up in such a way that the baffles are created so that it throws that oil up into the cylinder and the piston even if the engine is on its side. So that is why 2-cycle motors are commonly used for things like weed whackers and things of that nature. So things that we are light, move around, and might tip on its side. So also with the piston, you've got the pin and the lock. So the piston pin connects the piston to the connecting rod, and the locks hold that pin in place. The connecting rod is going to connect the piston to the crankshaft. So this piece right here is the connecting rod, the one that's underneath the piston skirt here and comes down. And then it's got a rod cap on there, and that allows it, in between here, you need to be able to rotate the crank pin journal, which we will take a look at in a little bit. But it's got to be able to rotate, so the crankshaft rotates through that. Alright, so here's a piston diagram with everything on it. On your slide deck, you need to fill this out, so feel free to pause right now before you do that. And then you've got the connecting rod cap and bolts. So this is the connecting rod. Oh, hang on, I'm going to pause. Okay, so we're back. So the crank pin journal is where the connecting rod joins the crankshaft here, and so on and so forth. I'm going to go to the next slide, and we'll continue from there. Okay, so very sorry about that. Got interrupted again, so I think we're good now. So the crank pin gear is this piece right here, and it is, what it does is it interlocks with the cam gear and helps turn the crankshaft, okay? So the measurement from the crankshaft to the center of the journal is called the throw, so that determines the stroke of the engine, so 1 throw is half of a stroke, okay? Counterweights, these things right here, if they're located on your crankcase or crankshaft, help balance the force. So it reduces the load on the rest of the crankshaft, all the way from the magneto side to the PTO side. So that's what the job of the counterweight is, to reduce the load so that you don't wear parts out any faster than you need to. Okay, so there's a diagram there. Again, in your notes, I believe you need to write those pieces in there, so you might want to pause it right now. So cylinder block. The cylinder block houses the piston and the crankshaft. The cylinder is, in this particular case, right up here, there's a hole there. That's the base of your cylinder, and the piston goes up into that to the other side, which is known as the head. This head gasket right here goes on top of that head, and it is a gasket that provides a seal between the cylinder head and the block. Okay, head gaskets, when they go bad, severely affect the integrity and the efficiency of your engine. So, and the reason for that is because it creates a leak, and compression just cannot occur very well. Alright, so valves. Valves work with the piston for compression and combustion. So the intake valve is going to open when the air-fuel mixture is entering, and the exhaust valve is going to open when it's releasing waste. Okay, so not entirely surprising that the intake valve ends up looking a lot cleaner than the exhaust valve does. All right, so because the exhaust valve gets covered in those pollutants as it shoves it out of the system there. So valve springs, so these two things right here are the valves, and then we got the valve springs that help close and open them. And then these two pieces are spring retainers, and so they hold the springs on the valve piece here. Valve tappets open and close the valves. They connect to the crankshaft, or the camshaft, I should say, not the crankshaft. My apologies. And so these pieces right here connect with these lobes. So you see these two pieces that jut out. These are camshaft lobes, and they will push the valve tappet up and down. And the valve tappet is at the bottom of the valve. So it's connected and it pushes it up and down and opens the valve or closes the valve. This is the camshaft and the cam gear right here and the cam lobes that are on there. Alright, so here's another picture of that camshaft. So here's your valve tappets, and then this is your cam lobe. And as it rotates around, it pushes up here on the rocker arm up and down. And depending on which direction it is set up in, it'll open up the valve or close it. It's really hard to, oh, that's the end already. Well, let's back her up just a bit. It's hard to imagine this if you have not ever worked on a motor, and once we tear ours apart and start looking at these pieces, you'll get to see a little bit more and understand a little bit more about what's going on. So, by the way, this is your spark plug here and your spark plug wire. That's what's causing the ignition inside the cylinder chamber there. You need something to ignite it. So we're going to get into the ignition system tomorrow. All right, that's it. Have a good day.